I can't say enough about what this has done for me and my self-worth and the way I feel inside of my skin. Um, and the added level of peace it's brought me. Um, and I do think, Tiffany, that you like have a true gift that you bring to your clients and that you use when you move through the world. Um,
Welcome to Connect the Dots to Your Wellbeing with Breathwork 614. I'm Tiffany Berger, the creator of Breathwork 614. I am passionate about guiding you to a life full of ease, joy, and abundance, to really receiving your well-being. Today on the podcast, I have Kim. Kim has been a Breathwork 614 client for almost 1 year. 1 year. This December marks her 1 year anniversary. Woohoo! And I was introduced to Kim through another one of my Breathwork 614 clients. Kim was so gracious to open up her house and offer a space for a friendship breathe. And I believe that was one of Kim's first experiences with breathwork. So, Kim, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much, Tiffany. I really appreciate it. I am in my car. I didn't have another way to have good privacy, so I am in a parking lot, sitting still. I do have my heat warmer on. I'm glad to talk to you. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So for viewers and listeners, it's fall here in the Midwest, but it's a beautiful fall morning, isn't it, Kim? It's sunny out, and we haven't really had a frost yet or anything. So we're maybe 40s in the morning sometimes, maybe 30s, but we're 70s by the end of the day. So we'll take that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful. The light is gorgeous. The colors are awesome right now. So
Yes, they are. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being on today. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your willingness to share your story and what this breathwork journey has been like for you. I am a firm believer that when we open up, when we display vulnerability, it really can be a catalyst for transformation in others and their journeys. So thank you. So Kim, let's get started. Let's just dive right in. What's keeping you most alive right now?
Oh, friends, nature. I am in a 12-step recovery program. My 12-step recovery program, and my family. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So Kim, you mentioned you're in a 12-step recovery program. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and who Kim is prior, and maybe even who you were prior to your breathwork journey?
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I have found so much peace and joy in my 12-step program. I'm always excited to have new people come upon it because, I'm excited that any other person can have the same opportunity that I got there. Um, I also feel that way about Breathworks though, and the work that we've done together. Both have been like just incredible gifts to me. But my 12-step journey is essentially, I was drinking regularly, starting in high school and on the weekends, and into my 30s, and I always blacked out, which for folks who don't know what that means, I guess, means that I would drink so much that I wouldn't remember large portions of time. And it's a scary place to be. But because of my addiction, um, despite the blackouts, I was always, I kept drinking, and I would downplay the blackouts to myself. And there was a lot of shame and anxiety and sort of darkness that would come the next day after those blackouts and those drinking experiences. And eventually, I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. By the time I stopped drinking, I wasn't drinking that many times a year actually, but every time I did, it was the same results. I would drink to oblivion, basically. And then I had kids, and I think that in having kids, having that added responsibility of like, wait a second, I'm like in charge of these humans, and if I am blacked out, I mean, I have a husband, but as their mother, I can't care for them. I'm putting them at risk. And that was sort of a big turning point for me. That was when I decided to try to quit.
And
So,
so thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
When you said it was the same results, I'm guessing you mean the same experience every time you interacted with alcohol. It was drink yourself into oblivion, feel that shame, feel that guilt the very next day. And you shared that it leads to that anxiety. You started feeling anxious, right? And so am I correct in that your children motivated you in joining AA? How did you get synced up with AA?
Yeah. So right. The hangovers are alcohol is a depressant. So not only do you have all of that, depressant that you're pouring into your body, and then therefore the next day a lot of people experience what they call like the hangover blues or anxiety, which was the case for me. But also what would come with that is the remorse and the sadness around having done it again and not being able to remember things. And I would be kind of sneaking around trying to get information about what I'd done. It's terrible. It was terrible. Yeah, so I decided to try to stop. For me, I actually ended up stopping, and in the recovery rooms, at least in 12-step rooms, if you stop drinking but you're not getting help for the mental component of your alcoholism, you're what we call a dry drunk. But I don't think that that's like a common universal term necessarily. But so I put down the alcohol, but I didn't try to heal outside of that. And so where that left me was without the alcohol, which was good because I wasn't blacking out and then having the anxiety and remorse and all of those things. But I still had an alcoholic brain, so to speak. So like I said, I didn't treat my alcoholic brain. So I didn't have the alcohol in my life anymore, which was good, but I was still really, for lack of a better word, sick, and inside really. And so I did get introduced to the rooms of AA and the 12 steps through people that I love in my life. And that's sort of where my journey started. So I've been in 12 steps. I've been sober for 16 years, but I've been in 12 steps for about half that. And it's an entirely different way of being a sober person. So
Can we take a moment and celebrate you right now? Yay, 16 years of sobriety. Definitely worth celebrating. And the fact that you have stayed committed to yourself and to your sobriety for half of those years in 12 steps. So that's back to you, Kim. Kim is familiar, and many Breathwork 614 clients are familiar that we like to celebrate ourselves. It really promotes our transformation and our connection with ourselves, and we can celebrate ourselves. So, yay, Kim. So, along your 12-step journey, making connections, building a rapport with others who've had somewhat similar experiences, I'm guessing you might lead me to know, or lead viewers to know, that that's how you met probably one of my clients that introduced you to breathwork. Is that true? Okay.
yeah.
And how did she sell breathwork to you? What made you interested? Why were you motivated to open up your house to this woman, this breathworker you've never even met, and have friends over and breathe? Because you breathe all the time, right, Kim?
Right. So, it's funny because every time I would be interacting with this person, breath work would come up, and it went on for months. When I would see her, and I wasn't even seeing her that often, but she always brought up breath work. What a huge part of her recovery and her growth it was. Um, and so she and I were in a prayer group that I was hosting in my house periodically, and these were just like casual gatherings. We were trying different kinds of prayer and just talking, and she offered to bring you to one of the groups. She said, I'd really love to have you guys exposed to it, and I bet Tiffany would be willing, and let's schedule a time and a day. And that's kind of how it unfolded. I have, like, I will never forget the first time that you came to my house and I did guided breathing with you, because it was really something for me.
And so will you dive into that? So listeners, viewers, those that have never interacted with breath work, what is it? And really, how is it different than us breathing, just automatic breathing, in our daily life?
I think that's like an apples to oranges, honestly, because I mean, the breathing that we do in our day-to-day lives, at least for me, it's automated and it's just happening, right? Behind the scenes, when I'm not paying any attention to it, I'm doing it. But the guided breathing and the breathing that you've introduced me to in breathworks it is a very mindful practice. And for me, I have to focus quite a bit to follow and get myself into that flow. But the first time at my house when we did it, I'd always heard sort of in a peripheral kind of way about the power of breath, but I really experienced that for the first time. And I will say also that, like, I had been exposed to some other kinds of breathing through a meditation group that I was with for a number of years. But what I learned with you was very different and elicited, I actually had a lot of physical reactions to it, like positive ones, very powerful ones.
Yeah,
That I,
yeah. Would you be willing to explain that? For you, I know it's always been hands where you feel energy, you feel that movement. So yeah, please share.
oh my gosh. Yeah, I had never felt anything like it before. It felt, yes, my hands were very, very energetic and tingly, as well as my mouth. Like the whole area around my mouth and my chin felt the same way. Um, and it was it was a whole new set of sensations that I hadn't had before. And I could feel when I put it's really hard to explain, but when I would put my hands together, which I can't do right now on the camera because I'm holding my phone, but when I just put my hands together, like in the shape of a ball, but they wouldn't touch, the energy felt like it was being moved. And I remember saying to you, like, I feel like I want to do something with this. Like, it was so palpable that um I felt like it was like an object kind of that I wanted to hold. But also I felt compelled to, there was something healing about it. Like I wanted to be able to share it or give it to people I loved. I don't really know how else to say it other than that. It was so powerful for me.
Yeah. So you have this energy, this aliveness building within your being, within your physical being, right? And as Kim explained, she would want to put her hands together or bring them in and out as if she could feel the vibrations or the energy moving between hand to hand. And this was different for those, I want to make a clear distinction here. This is different for those that have done breath work. There can be a point in your session where you get tetany, and we call this lobster claw. So sometimes our hands will get really tight and they'll look like a lobster claw, or we'll get, no, we can't order. So that's not what Kim was feeling. So I just want to make that distinction. She was actually feeling that energetic movement throughout her body. And so what happens is through a lifetime, our body experiences emotions, right? And our body holds on to those emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. And it's not just our mind that goes through experiences, right? We have this physical being, this body that goes through those experiences too. And if we are not processing our emotions, meaning integrating them into our body, releasing them, as some people will say, they become heavy, they become overwhelming, and the breath doesn't play around. The breath goes in, it finds those emotions, it works to really massage out to help you process and to release those. So that was Kim's first experience with the breath and the energy and the aliveness that it brings in. So Kim, after that, I believe you attended one of my community events. I had a breathwork event at a salt cave, I believe. Is that
Yeah.
correct? And
Yeah.
then what made you after that say, okay, I'm ready to start my journey? It sounded like you had 2 interactions with breathwork. You had a friend telling you about breathwork, and then you did it. What was the final straw that's like, okay, I'm ready for this journey?
It was because at the Salt Cave event, I had an even more intense experience with moving through the breath with you and the physical part of it. I don't cry very easily, and I think probably because of some of the meds that I'm on, I was moved to tears. I said to my husband after it, I can't not explore this. Like this has been so powerful for me both times I've done it. I feel called to dig into it. And you know, really that's it. Like I had never experienced anything like that before. Um so
And you, right? Like it does, it's so funny because it's not funny. It's sacred, honestly, in that how the breath finds you. Most people are out looking for breath work. I know I certainly wasn't when breath work found me, but it finds you. It really comes into your life at just the right time, and it does its work, and it does its work so gently, right? It's such a gentle approach. So Kim, you have 12 steps going on, which is already somewhat of a personal development journey. And then you add the layer of breath work of this transformational journey. How, for some that aren't even on a personal development journey, that might seem like a lot. So let's start there. How do you marry both of them? How do you give to both of them? How do you find the time? Talk a little bit about that, please.
well, I think that with the 12 steps part of my program, there are 1 hour meetings all over the city all day long, and so I do that. I go to meetings, and then I often meet up with people outside of the program who are in the program, and that's just, you know, I can plug that into my week however I choose. But then with the breath work, I you know, I have the appointments with you every so many weeks, but I love just doing the sitting and the breathing. It brings me so much peace, but I also try to always be finding the sweet spot between the 2 modalities, and in terms of time. And you know, breathworks is not, doing breath is not the kind of thing that you have to commit, you know, like 2 hours a day to something. To even if I just have 5 or 10 minutes a couple of times throughout my day to just get grounded and use some of the techniques, it helps so much. And so it's just kind of a mosaic. Like every day looks a little bit different, but having both helps me feel balanced, and I look forward to it. And quite frankly, like I really, really need it to feel grounded is the best word, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. You just mentioned that every day looks like a mosaic, and you highlighted that you're integrating it into your daily life. Could you connect the dots for viewers and followers? How are you implementing it daily? Like, what does that look like?
Well, it some days it looks like me. So I work part-time and I mostly work from home. Some days it looks like me doing let's say 10 minutes, like I'll set a timer and I like to do it outside a lot when the weather's uh,
Cooperative.
yes, thank you. Um, and so that's what I've been doing. Now it's October, it'll start shifting, but I'll sit outside for about 10 minutes and just get comfortable, and enjoy the fresh air. And I often will set an alarm for a couple of other times in my day. And when the alarm goes off, I just pause what I'm doing and either go back outside or, wherever I am. Sometimes, like right now, I'm in my car because I needed some privacy from my family, but I will sit in my car and do it. You can be anywhere and do it.
Yeah.
Um,
We have
and
access to our breath 24/7, right? Absolutely.
and yesterday I actually used an app that you introduced me to. It's the Global Coherence, I think it's called.
Yes.
And that was so interesting and unique. And I love the idea of sitting in breath and that energy of doing it with people globally. That was really interesting. I got my husband in on that one. So that's generally, I would say, what it looks like for me.
Yeah, yeah. What a great idea to set a timer, right? Why a timer? How has a timer helped you? Is it just serve as a reminder, or is it so that you don't get lost into that meditative zone? What does the timer do for you?
Oh, that's funny. God, I haven't thought about that deeply. I guess for me, if if I'm going into it and I know, okay, I'm going to, I can just settle in. It helps with my focus. If I settle in and I go, okay, I'm just going to jump into this and focus on it. And when the time, and really try to be mindful and pay attention to my breath for just 10 minutes, Kim, for 10 minutes, you can stay focused. That's really what it's about for me. It's not
Yeah,
so much that I'm going to start breathing and then like 2 hours later I'm going to be, like off in the, whatever. I've
yeah,
forgotten about or something like that. But um, that's what it is for me more. It's like, okay, Kim, with these short bites of time, you can stay focused and just breathe for this amount of time. Whereas I feel like if I set a timer for an hour or 45 minutes, or something like that, my brain would probably be like off and I wouldn't be able to stay focused. However, having said that, when I'm in my appointments with you, and I have you guiding me and stuff, I can stay on board for longer periods of time, it seems. So
yeah. And that's the benefit of having a facilitator, right? To hold that space for you, to guide you, to guide your breath. Absolutely. Very cool with the timer. I love that. No one's ever mentioned that before. So I wanted to, really hone in on that. And what positive self-talk you just displayed right there with yourself. I can do this, Kim. 10 minutes. I can do this. Nice. I will,
uh, that
I'll,
is, I will say that, the positive self-talk is largely a product of my time with you and our appointments. And I mean, I would imagine we'll talk more about it, but like I get so much more out of my time with you than the breathing. Um,
Okay, I do want to dig into that. Before we do, while we were on the Global Coherence app, I just want to tell followers, I will link that into the description so that they can access it too. It is a free app. It's offered through the HeartMath Institute. And what a wonderful time to be implementing that, with what's going on in Israel and in the Middle East. But the Global Coherence app, what it does is that it uses your phone camera as a sensor. So you literally can place your finger on the camera and it'll measure your breathing. And so what coherence is our heart rate and our brain waves, when they are in sync with one another, that's called coherence. And that's beautiful because our breath can bring those waves into coherence. And so what this app does is it shows the coherence globally. So I could be breathing, even if it's for 3 to 5 minutes, right? I'm still adding global coherence points to the app to our world. And so research has proven that when people in a set location meditate or consciously breathe together, they raise the energetic vibration of the planet. So that's what you're doing when you are on that app. You're raising the energetic vibration of the planet to a higher vibration, to love, to peace. So even if we are across the world and, you know, we're sending prayers and we want to do something more, breathe peace, breathe love. That's my motto, Breathwork 614's motto, right? Breathe love. So Kim, thanks for bringing that up. Awesome. So let's circle back around. Tell me about this self-talk and how that has been an integral part into your personal development journey.
Well, when I come to my appointments with you, I cannot say enough about that time with you, Tiffany. It has helped me in so many ways. It's just been so beautiful. So thank you so much.
Oh, let's pause. I received that. You're bringing tears to my eyes. I'm for your gratitude. I can feel it.
Oh my gosh, it has just been so beautiful for me. And you're just such a loving and wonderful practitioner. And I've done other kinds of therapeutic kinds of things, and my time with you has been the most beneficial of any of it. So thank you so much. Um okay, so well, in the journey with you, we started talking about my personal lie, and discovered through those conversations and through our time together that my personal lie was that I wasn't good enough. And through our appointments, you helped me see that I had, well, and just through having stillness in my life, and through my own personal journey, I realized that I had a lot of negative self-talk happening in my head, especially really a lot of it seemed to be work focused, but I'm sort of learning that it's sort of all over the place. And I got some clarity around that, and you and I spoke about it, and you've helped me um, try to use positive language about myself. And you've helped me understand the power of having, you don't use the word mantra, I don't think, but what?
Yeah. So I use thought patterns or affirmations or positive thought patterns. Yeah.
Affirmations.
Similar to mantra. I mean, all synonyms.
So I'm trying to use mantras. Like my mantra started as, like, I'm willing to see that I am good enough, and over time I was able to change it to I am good enough, and feel firm in that. And so along with that has been a shift in trying to, when I speak out loud about myself and when I am inside of my head, I guess, thinking about myself, I really, try to pay attention to my word choice, and speak positively about myself and show myself love. And I am lucky enough to have friends and other people around me who are practicing these things as well, and they're great. Having those people in my life is also a great reminder because I see them doing it as well, I guess.
Yeah, and you're a point of attraction for that now, right?
Yeah.
We attract what fits into our belief system. So I hear you saying that you learned how to take this role of the observer, right? Like you were witnessing your thoughts, not attaching to those thoughts, not believing them, but learning how to witness and then lovingly detach from them, and then really transform the thoughts to what you desire to experience about yourself, such as I am good enough. So transforming the personal lie, establishing the eternal law, which is that positive thought pattern. Absolutely. What compassion too. It sounds like you gained throughout that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, sort of there's byproducts of doing that, I guess. Sort of like one of them is being more gentle and kind to myself, physically. Like yesterday, I had planned to, I had put too many things in my day and I was really tired, unusually tired. And I just, moved some things around and adjusted my day. So to just that, to be more kind and loving to myself and to take care of myself. Like I'm exhausted. I don't have to do all these things and I'm not going to.
Can we celebrate that right now, Kim? Pats on the back. She's listening to her body, listening to herself, and then changing the schedule, right? So that it like was responding to the body, not just listening, but we're listening and responding. So yes, girl, love that.
Yep.
What about, would you touch on the anxiety piece? So you mentioned at the beginning of our time together on this episode here that there was the shame, the remorse, the guilt that you would experience when you would wake up the next day after drinking, and then you had children, and now it's like, now I got to care for my kids. And I want you to rather explicitly say, like, did that grow your anxiety? Because I know that anxiety, when you came to me, that was one of the goals that you wanted to begin transforming. So can we talk about that in your relationship to anxiety?
You mean how my anxiety has changed since I've been coming to and
Yeah,
learning?
yeah, maybe what it was like, yes, prior to breath work, because I'm guessing you still had anxiety when you were in the 12 steps, right?
Oh yeah. Anxiety's been part of my life, outside of the hangover days. It's been part of my life since I was in my 20s.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, so yeah, so maybe can you just paint a clear timeline then for followers? That'd be great.
sure. So as I said, I would have tremendous amounts of anxiety on hangover days. So that was that. But then also in my 20s, I started having anxiety and panic attacks. And the panic attacks are I haven't had that many of them over the years, but I often experienced a lot of sort of generalized freeform anxiety. Um, and I think that um, there's a lot of things that I do to try to sort of keep my anxiety at bay. I have other things outside of 12 steps and breathing and breath works, but I think that as it relates to breath work, my anxiety has lessened because of all of these different components that I'm working on through my appointments with you. So it's not only just the breath itself and the time that I spend doing that and being mindful and using that as a healing modality, and grounding, but it's also the other things that I've learned about myself. So for example, like with this positive self-talk that we were talking about, if something comes up at work and I recognize, oh, I can, like I'm mindful of, I can feel a physiological thing happening in my body. This happened just in the past couple of weeks with a coworker of mine. Um, so I recognize that that's happening. And then through my tools, I will breathe and get grounded, and just the breath itself self helps physiologically, but also then I will use some of the other tools that I've learned through you. For example, like, you can do this. You are you know what you're doing. You can handle this person. This person is having their own journey. Remembering that how people treat me, or how people move through the world has nothing to do with me. And that kind of self-knowledge and awareness and growth has helped the anxiety as well. So I feel like it's like multi-pronged. But again, there's so many other things that I'm learning about myself and so many other tools that I'm getting in my appointments with you that I'm then applying to, not like anxiety in my life, but other things as well. I don't know that I articulated that clearly.
Yeah. I'm going to summarize what
Yeah.
I heard you say. So it sounds like early 20s, anxiety started creeping in, panic attacks, you were experiencing panic attacks. And then you spoke a little bit about how you were experiencing anxiety, even, while you were drinking. But now, so I guess would you say that you were experiencing anxiety daily in your 20s and even at the beginning, while you were in AA? How often, like, what's the comparison, right? So how often were you experiencing anxiety prior to breath work, and now how often are you experiencing anxiety? Can you paint that picture?
Um, I I have very few anxious days now. And before I came to breath work, I had more. I can't put I couldn't put a number on it really, but I think, it's safe to say that my anxiety is considerably less. Um, but I also would say that my anxiety before and after 12 steps, so to speak,
Mhm.
is very different as well. So uh, net, like as I'm learning more about myself and I'm growing more and I'm learning more tools, the anxiety is decreasing.
Yeah.
Um,
And it sounds like it's all blending so well. So for those that are in 12 steps or are in 12 steps but aren't on a personal development journey, such as breath work or breathwork by Breathwork 614 in particularly, how are those similar? How are you able to marry them together?
Gosh, that's interesting. It's really kind of like this big potpourri of things that I have in sort of a tool bucket, if you will. Um, like I guess 12 steps was through 12 steps I gained I mean I've gained so many things, but it's a spiritual program. And so I, you know, got a higher power for myself and I developed a spiritual life and all of these things, which help in my day to day existence and help with my anxiety and all of these things. And then through you, I, have learned other modalities and in addition to the breathing. So I feel like it's just a big uh, conglomeration of things that I have to pick from at any moment of any day. And if I'm practicing them regularly, then I'm sort of keeping myself in a space of stasis, so to speak. And so it's sort of for lack of a better term, like some sort of space of maintenance, if you will. So if I keep practicing the things, and for me those also include like some sort of time outside and exercising and good sleep and good food, um, along with the tools from 12 steps and from breath work, I have the best chance possible of staying sort of in peace
Yeah.
and like I have a good foundation day to day if I'm continue practicing those things. If I stop, I mentally feel myself going backwards. Um,
I hear that. I see that too. That was I keep asking you to paint a clear picture. That was like super clear. That was beautiful. You have this emotional toolkit that has really grown, it sounds like, with a large array of access to any tool that you need at any given point, whatever comes your way. And it really keeps yourself, you said homeostasis, but also it keeps you in flow, right? So that you
yeah,
don't feel stuck. Like I can't get out of here, or I don't know how to make this choice for myself, or I'm not sure what to do. It keeps you in flow, which then leaves you feeling empowered. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's
So
it's like, life continues going on. I've had some really challenging stuff going on with family recently, but it doesn't mean that those things aren't going to happen. It just means that when life is happening, which it's always going to be happening, I am I'm so much better able to move through it without feeling like I want to crawl up in a ball and go cry in my bed all day.
yeah, because you're equipped for one with those tools, like you said, right? But two, now it's your perception of
Yes.
those challenging things, right? Whereas
Yep.
before, when before you start a personal development journey or start your breathwork journey, maybe your perception to those challenging events are, oh my gosh, this is going to consume my life. How am I ever going to move on? Right
Yep.
now, it's okay. I can lovingly detach from this situation that's occurring, and I know that I have the tools to flow with it. And when we change that perception, it is the miracle, right? It is the miracle. Of course, the
Oh
miracle
my.
says that. Can we speak to that? I didn't kind of warn you that that was going to come, but this is beautiful. Any miracles or blessings that you've really experienced or seen unfold within this journey?
Well, just on the perception piece, 1000% agree with that. Like I feel like anything that comes up, if I can choose how I'm going to perceive it, and if I want to make it overwhelming, I can do that with my internal language and the words that come out of my mouth. One of the amazing something somebody taught me at some point along the journey, like these things are happening, they're not happening to me, which takes out the which puts space in there and empowerment. Um so miracles along the journey. I used to really cringe at the word miracles, and I don't anymore. And I feel like miracles are happening all the time, and they are incredibly small and incredibly big and anywhere in between. I mean, I feel like it's miraculous that I have like a body that works. And when my mom gave birth to me, I had all of my pieces and parts in the right place. And that happens all day, every day around the world, that babies are formed and born. And I feel like that is a miracle. I feel like it's a miracle that the sun comes up every day and that the trees change color, and nature is just constantly putting me in a space of awe. And when I'm in awe, I feel like I'm closer to my higher power, and closer to being in flow. um I feel like it's a miracle that I can, for example, I attended a large drinking event of one of my sons, at a frat party recently. It's a miracle that I can go to something like that and not drink myself, but that I can also stay grounded and stay in gratitude, and be grateful that he invited me and that I can be there, and that I have an opportunity to meet people that he loves at school, that he feels good about. And um,
Yeah,
that's a
that
miracle.
connection. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Kim, that brought tears to my eyes right there, because I knew you had brought that up in the last session, that that was coming up, and we haven't talked about how that unfolded. So wow, you remained grounded through that. You were able to connect, and really enjoy yourself. It sounds like
Yeah.
wow, that's got to be mind-boggling to someone just starting their 12 steps. I would imagine so, right? So
Yeah.
you can get there. That what a beautiful example you are of we create our own reality. When you say that you change your perception of the life's challenges and whatever's coming your way, because you change that perception, you create a different reality for yourself, a reality that serves you. And it sounds like your daily consistent practice is really serving the reality you're receiving.
Yeah, thank you. I totally believe that. And it's uh, the lesson that I can my perception changes everything was huge. When I first learned that concept, I didn't like it because it's so much easier to just be a victim. It's so much easier to say, I can't believe this is happening to me. Oh, this stinks. What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. But when I live in a space of like, okay, yep, this is happening. How am I going to move through this? How am I going to, stay sturdy and best handle this? And I have ways I can do that. And I'm not a victim. I am a sturdy, loving person who has tools and skills and support.
Yeah. Yeah. And often I think too, depending on our caregivers, we can adopt or agree with that victim role. We might not know the tools to get us out of that role, right? What wonderful, wonderful. So Kim, you've done a wonderful job of explaining how the 12 steps and the breathwork journey are similar. Are there any differences within each of those programs?
Yeah, I mean, they are just by definition different. Just by the mere fact that, like, 12 steps is built on 12 different steps, and you move through them, and you have a guide, and there's regular meetings and all these kinds of things. So just like the way they function is very different. But breath work has, there's nothing physical in AA that talks about breathing. We do talk about meditation, but we don't get into anything physiological. And because of where alcoholics come from on their journey when they come into AA, we talk a lot about everything that we've done wrong and repairing and moving forward, and trying to right some of those wrongs. But something that I found wasn't serving me in the 12 steps was a lot. There's a bit of, I guess, negative self-talk, if you will. There are some phrases that I found weren't serving me. One of them that's really common is sick and self, which you helped me see. So what that means really in AA speak is, or in 12 step speak, is like just being self-centered. And sick and self, you helped me see, was putting a lot of negative energy back towards myself, which is something I'm really trying to get away from. And so I needed to take some time to sort of examine that phrase, and I'm not using it anymore, but I'm trying to also transform some of those concepts in the language with different words, to better serve me and to stay true to what I'm learning from you about, and through breath work, about being kind and loving towards myself.
Yeah.
So they're they're really different. And I think that the time that I spend with you've introduced me to so many different tools, that might, some of them, square nicely with 12 steps, and some of them are very different. And I have found them to be like incredibly helpful. Some of them I feel more connected to than others.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say that the two things are different just by function of what they are, but they complement each other nicely. And also, breath work in my time with you has helped me see some things about my 12-step program that I didn't really want to be partaking in anymore. And so I'm sort of editing some of them.
Listen to, oh, your word choice is beautiful. I'm editing some of them because you are empowered. You can do that. It's your life. I love that.
Yep.
You can enhance your own life and create that reality. Yeah, breath work will always get you into the body. The whole design of it is for you to grow in relationship with yourself. And so the first way we can do that is by pausing, by listening to our body, responding to it, right? And this whole idea of sick and self, what Kim and I really did, and I have some other clients too that are in 12 steps. We looked at
Yep.
how is that term or that phrase causing you to feel? What emotions arise in you when you hear sick and self? And I'm not going to speak for you, Kim. I'm just going to speak in generality here, but the common was, it just adds more shame. It makes me feel more guilty. It's putting us in the past. And if our perception is always in the past, that's not really promoting forgiveness. It's not helping us to propel and to transform and, flow into the present moment or, the future. So changing that perception from sick and self to maybe, what do you use now, Kim? Is there a verbiage that you use now that speaks to you?
Actually, that you're asking me that, I haven't come up with an alternate phrase, but when I go to sick and self in my brain, I pause and think, okay, no, that's not that. I'm not going to use that term. What is happening sort of inside of me right now, really?
Okay.
And I just pause and sort of look inside, for an answer, and sort of try to put that phrase to the side, and in the spirit of trying to transition away from it.
That's beautiful because that was a part of you, right? That sick and self was a part of you, but that's not who you are now. So that's not going to limit you and who you transform to be. Beautiful. Love that you're giving yourself that pause. If you were to summarize your breathwork journey, summarize what we discussed today, if you were to connect the dots to viewers and listeners' well-being, what's something you would share with them? So you get the floor.
Oh gosh. I can't say enough about what this has done for me and my self-worth and the way I feel inside of my skin. And the added level of peace it's brought me. Um and I do think, Tiffany, that you like have a true gift that you bring to your clients, and that you use when you move through the world. Um,
Can I say thank you while you pause? I can't let that go. Thank you. Thank you. You
yeah,
already brought me to tears once. I'm gonna thank you, Kim. It is my pleasure. Seriously. It is so cool to be on my side of things and to see how God just kind of flows through and how he works in this dynamic, like that's a miracle in itself, right? That unfolds before us.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And Kim, if followers want to get in contact with you, if they have questions about the breathwork journey or your journey in particular, or maybe even 12-step questions, can they do that? What does that look like for you? How can they get a hold of you?
I think I am always excited to talk about anything that has to do with breath work or 12 steps. I get excited that anybody will have access to it and be able to experience the power of it. And I would love to talk to anybody. Yeah, I would say they could just email you. They could be in connection with you, and you can give them my email and my phone number.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's so exciting to know that other humans are getting access to these things that I have found to be so powerful. It's totally my pleasure to talk to anybody about any of it,
Thank
including the.
you. Thank you for your willingness to do that, because when we heal ourselves with love, what happens, Kim? Others heal around us, right?
Yep,
We can
yep.
heal the world. We really can, just with our energetic vibration. Well, Miss Kim Romer, thank you for your time today. I really greatly, greatly appreciate it. You brought me to tears twice. What can I say? I love and I care for you, and I will see you soon. Thank you.
I love you too. Thank you, Tiffany.